Hi, I'm Jeff Hayes, and this is Maha Uncensored. We begin today with a stark truth. The average American is carrying 700 toxins in their body. Toxins affect everyone, from babies born with polluted umbilical cords to seniors with lead and mercury seeping from their bones and teeth. In the second half of today's broadcast, we're going to talk about supplements. Yesterday, I urged you not to take another supplement before watching today's broadcast. That's because there's a paradox when it comes to supplement use that could make your stack more harmful than helpful if you ignore it. We'll break down what that is and more, including a spotlight on 4 supplements showing incredible promise for the heart, brain, and more. Before I leave you, we do have a special offer today when you buy the full Maha Uncensored documentary and support our movement. If you've been thinking about it, my advice is to do it today. Do not wait, you'll be glad you did. And now, here's the first half of our broadcast, 700 Toxins.
When my uncle was president, the rate of chronic disease was about 11%, and it was 3% in 1950, and today it's 60%, even more. 8 out of 10 American kids cannot qualify for military service. Fertility issues are, insane. American teens today have half the sperm count and half the testosterone as 65-year-old men. Our girls are hitting puberty 6 years early. I saw all this happening, and I walked through an airport, I walked down the street, and I see kids, I see them in a playground, I see them in schools, and they've all got chronic inflammation and chronic mitochondrial challenges, and you can see it on their face, the way they move their bodies. And that's not how children are supposed to look. And it was shocking to me that nobody was seeming to notice this. So I spent 2.5 years on the campaign trail talking about it. And people were very receptive to it. All of a sudden it clicked with them that, yeah, something is really wrong.
Adia McCullough and her 7-year-old son Robbie are still dealing with the aftermath of a crisis in Flint that exposed its 100,000 residents to toxic levels of lead in the drinking water.
We have lead in our water system. We're exposed to aluminum. We're exposed to all sorts of toxins. We're exposed to glyphosate, pesticides. They're everywhere. So when you get one toxin in your body, it layers on top of the toxins that are there already and layers on top of another one. The average adult in North America now has 700 toxins in their body. Our immune systems simply weren't built to sustain that. And when the toxins get in, whether it's mercury or whatever, it lodges into your cell walls. You need to get rid of toxins to be able to function properly.
There's this emergent category of practice called functional medicine. And there's people from different disciplines that come into it. You might have chiropractors in it, you might have osteopaths in it, you might have certain medical doctors in it, where they decide that they're going to take a more natural approach, that now are working with the body in certain ways to help it do things like detox itself, etc., where it's not just take this pill for this condition, whether it be a vitamin pill or a pharmaceutical pill, but instead it's working with the body to go deeper into things like blood work and lab work and urinalysis to see deeper things that are in there. For example, a lot of people are carrying big loads of pesticides and molds and other things like that. And when you see that, say, okay, now we have to figure out how do we get that stuff out of the body to help detox things that are there that unfortunately should never have been there in the first place, but we've polluted this place and toxified it to such an extent that now we have to have an entire industry of people who are focused on figuring out what toxins you have and how to get them out of your body so that you can live normally again.
Heightened fears have many wondering, testing their soil, and now even their bodies. Naturopathic Dr. Holly Zaff showed us how one of her patients' recent test results showed sky-high levels of cadmium.
I'm Dr. Wendy Myers, and I've been focused on naturopathic medicine and detoxification for almost 15 years now, and really focused in on heavy metal and chemical detoxification. Because of my own health issues and my father dying of his cancer treatments, my daughter being diagnosed with autism and the great impact the toxins have had on my own health and the health of my family. We're surrounded by toxins that interfere in our delicate hormonal system, that interfere in our stress, sex, and our thyroid hormones. And it's actually very common today. And it's why there's an epidemic today of men having low testosterone levels. There are xenoestrogens in our environment. There's so many different estrogenic chemicals, microplastics, pesticides, phthalates, and parabens that are in all of our beauty products, perfumes we're spraying on ourselves every day. Petroleum-based products are estrogenic. Medications are made from petroleum. Most people are typically doing so many different things to work against their hormones, work against their fertility and their ability to reproduce. So it's not really surprising the fact that 1 in 6 couples are not able to conceive.
When my uncle was president, the fertility rate in this country was 3.5%. Today, it is 1.6%. The replacement rate, in other words, the amount of fertility that you need in order to keep your population even, is 2.1%. We are below replacement right now. That is a national security threat to our country. And we know why this is happening. And President Trump is addressing the root causes through his MAHA agenda of reducing endocrine disruptors, the exposure to chemicals that decrease fertility.
When I started having my own personal health issues, I started having a lot of issues with poor sleep, anger, trouble losing weight, and I just didn't feel like myself. I went to my functional medical doctor, so run all the tests, figure out what's going on with me. And I was about 37, and they found that I had the hormone levels of a menopausal woman, and then did some heavy metals testing and found out that I had all these heavy metals. I had very high mercury because I love sushi. I had arsenic, I had uranium, I had aluminum. Later testing show I had cesium and thallium and other heavy metals. I didn't think that heavy metals applied to me because I lived such a healthy lifestyle. Heavy metals are something that a lot of people just don't think about. And that's where my mission is to help educate people about all these different sources of where we get heavy metals and chemicals and how that's profoundly affecting your health.
A new disturbing government report says baby food from some of the country's largest manufacturers is tainted with toxic metals.
The report says many baby foods have dangerous levels of toxic heavy metals, including arsenic, lead, cadmium, and mercury.
When you look at just one heavy metal, which is lead, how pervasive lead is in our environment. We used leaded gasoline for many, many years. That was outlawed in the 70s, but that lead still persists in our soils. That lead still persists in our bones. That's where it's largely deposited. And it can take 4 generations of that lead passing down from mother to child before there's no more lead left to pass on. Your body is great at sequestering that lead away, but at some point, especially when men enter andropause, women enter menopause, and there's a breakdown of the bone structure, that lead starts coming out of the body, causing cataracts, fatigue, and heart disease, and so many other health issues. We see that lead is shown in the research to cause.
The results of a Consumer Reports investigation into canned tuna are so concerning, the Watchdog website is now recommending anyone who's pregnant to avoid eating it.
High amounts of mercury can lead to problems with fine motor coordination, speech, sleep, and walking.
Mercury is ubiquitous in our environment. It's really almost impossible to not have mercury in your system. So mercury is going to be coming from manufacturing, paper manufacturing, coal burning, all the coal that's being burnt. Then with fish consumption, though I still advocate for fish consumption, I think there's always a cost-benefit analysis to do when it comes to any food that you're eating. Most people have had mercury fillings at one point in their life, and so that's obviously a huge source of mercury. Every time you bite down, you're releasing a little bit of mercury vapor into your body and into your brain. And me personally, I had about 5 mercury fillings that I had removed when I was 21 years old. just by a regular dentist. So after the age of 21, I went into a decade of depression, chronic GI issues, yeast infections that were related to that massive mercury exposure that I got by this mercury filling just being drilled and then released into my body and brain. I had a lot of problems following that.
When a dentist takes a dental drill and drills out the old filling, it is creating a cloud of mercury vapor that if OSHA came in with a mercury vapor analyzer in a dental office, they would shut that office down for unsafe levels of mercury vapor, not just in the back of the office, but in the front. It goes everywhere. The problem is very, very few dentists are removing dental amalgam safely. We have treatment rooms down the hall here that are equipped with incredible amount of protection. We have a mercury vapor ionizers where the air is positively pressured and ionized to attract the mercury vapor as it's being removed. We have rubber dam. We give the patients, we use charcoal and selenium and alternate air supply, oxygen over their nose, but we protect ourselves. Dental amalgam is ridiculous, it's barbaric, and it stays in your mouth for a lifetime. So what is the cost of that toxicity in that patient over the long term for keeping a material that is a known neurotoxin in somebody's head 2 inches from their brain?
But many people today, they still have mercury fillings they've had for 50 years. Mercury fillings are still being placed every day into people's mouths. It makes sense, and I beg people to get those mercury fillings removed by a biological dentist that's taking all the proper precautions so that mercury is not released into your system. For heavy metals testing, I like to do hair tissue mineral analysis. It's also known as an HTMA. And so that's a great, inexpensive, easy test people can do at home to see the 3-month average of all the heavy metals they have in their body. But I also love doing urine testing and stool testing as well to get the most complete picture. And then you can also do blood testing for heavy metals. But my favorite to start with is a hair tissue mineral analysis, simply because of the amount of information it gives me, and it's also so easy to do. You really need to think about detox more on the cellular level. We want to improve the body's ability to detox. We want to improve the cell's ability to get nutrients in and toxins out. For many people, that's compromised for a number of different reasons. The number one is lowered mitochondrial energy output. As far as mitochondria functioning, our mitochondria are little cells' powerhouses. Heavy metals and many other toxins interfere in the mitochondria's ability to produce energy.
Your mitochondria are not only your lights, they are your electricity. And as you have more and more of them being damaged or more and more of them dying, you have less cellular energy, so your brain doesn't work very well. This leads to brain fog, dementia, depression, because your brain has the most mitochondria in your entire body, 2 million. So when your mitochondria are damaged, the first thing that goes is your focus. Your immune system doesn't work well. Your metabolic health starts to plummet. And by the way, this is exactly when most chronic illnesses kick in. Heart disease, cancer, weight gain, and when that happens in your body, nothing works properly.
Foundationally, to heal, the first thing we start with when we're working with people is let's start building up mitochondria energy production right away. Let's help your mitochondria do that, and let's get your drainage pathways open. Opening your drainage pathways means that we're funneling all toxins and waste from your body in one direction. We want all of that to funnel to the bowels. So that means we need to make sure you are making bile. We need to make sure your liver is working well. So the first thing you want to do is get your bile production up. The second thing you want to do is support your lymphatic system. And this is, I think, one of the forgotten systems in the human body. It shuttles fluid and waste around the body, and it requires you to move your body in order to work well. So getting people to move their body so that lymphatic system flows. So getting everything to funnel and drain so that the majority of toxins are being eliminated from your body with your daily bowel elimination. That's the goal.
I think what we need to be doing on a regular basis is gentle detoxification that's safe for you to do on your own. Sweat as much as possible. This is where exercise is great, saunas are great. Use fiber, drink a lot of water. Poop, pee, sweat.
What the saunas do is they help facilitate the excretion of fat-soluble toxins out of your sebaceous glands, which are your oil glands. And so most of the toxins we're holding in our fat, like the pesticides and various chemicals, are fat-soluble chemicals. So they're not coming out through your sweat as much as the oil from the sebaceous glands. The saunas also serve to kill off different types of infections in your body, cancer cells in your body. At any one given time, we have 100 million cancer cells in our body. They're very heat intolerant. Parasites, also very heat intolerant. And when you get into an infrared sauna or a regular sauna, you're raising your core body temperature 1 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit. You're inducing this faux fever, this hyperthermia that helps to kill off and manage all this stuff if perhaps your immune system has become too weakened to do that job for you.
If you've ever worked out really intensely, it is grueling. It feels like you're sick. You actually can throw up. Your body's sweating, right? You're detoxifying all these metals and plastics, and you're giving your body this shock of resilience. The Western medical system, I believe, is primarily about control. It has developed miraculous technologies as far as acute medicine, but when it comes to really empowering people and helping the body heal, it's actually diametrically opposed to acknowledging symptoms as the means by which the body does heal. So in the case of influenza, having the symptoms of influenza like high fever, that's the way that the body actually detoxifies. By elevating temperature, it helps to liquefy some of the easy water within our cells so it can detoxify more readily. So instead of identifying temperature as the disease and try to suppress it with antipyretics, for example, it's about acknowledging the older ways where, you'd sweat out, a flu. You might put a blanket around you and eventually it would break because your immune system is resetting.
People just have accumulated all these toxins and it's just making people super sick. I learned from my own experience. I grew up in outback Australia and I went to an Aboriginal school. The Indigenous people taught us that you could heal anything and everything could be healed with God and God's foods. When I was 16, I started to binge eat on junk foods. I would eat gummy bears for breakfast, I would eat McDonald's for lunch, I would eat Pizza Hut for dinner. And after 5 years of eating that way, I ended up with a golf ball-sized tumor in my lymphatic system. Early stages of cancer. So that was my wake-up call. And that's when I thought, okay, I need to go back to my roots, apply everything I learned from the Indigenous people. The Indigenous people taught me that if you just get a tumor pop up somewhere and you just get it cut out, but you don't actually go in and heal the root cause, it's gonna pop up somewhere else. So I found a naturopath and a functional doctor. They gave me a detox plan and they told me we have to heal your gut. So we're gonna heal your gut and it's going to drain the tumor. I was also riddled with parasites. I did a live blood test. So they told me to start drinking bentonite clay, and they put me on this whole detox plan of colonics and coffee enemas every single day for 2 months. I was drinking vegetable juice, up to 6 of them a day, to create new cellular regeneration. And after 3 months of this detox plan, the tumor had completely dissolved.
But then when you really want to start to dig deeper, work with someone who knows how to do detoxification. First do the test, do a provoke test to see what's really going on, and then hit specifically what you need to target and work with a professional to do that. Because part of what happens as you start to detoxify is you also start to pull minerals out of your body as well, and you're gonna need to bring those back in once you're through your cycling of detoxification.
And this is where using functional labs is so critical, because if I can, for example, run an organic acids test on you and I can see what your nutrient need is for antioxidants, for B vitamins, for amino acids, I can actually see on that test whether you even have the raw materials needed in your body, the nutrients needed in order to make the right amount of glutathione or neurotransmitters or hormones. And so we can actually tailor a protocol exactly to you and your needs when we run the right labs. And then you can be assured that you're not taking supplements that are being wasted. They're not being excreted and you're not making expensive urine. You're actually utilizing them to solve at the root cause why you can't get well.
I recommend minerals for detoxification. I recommend binders. those are substances that act kind of like a sponge. They absorb toxins in your gut and perhaps in your bloodstream. And those can run the range from zeolites, they can be modified citrus pectin, apple pectin, grapefruit citrus pectin, charcoal, bamboo charcoal, and then other substances that are termed chelators. And so those grab onto and bind to different metals and toxins. Things like chlorella, alginates that are in seaweeds and okra that will absorb toxins. Cilantro is a good one. DMSA, which is an amino acid. EDTA, which is an amino acid, very effective at binding onto various toxins. You can use natural substances like garlic, turmeric, vitamin E, glutathione. There's just a whole range of supplements that facilitates the body's ability to detox and grab onto these toxins and remove them from the body. Vitamin C as well.
So bentonite clay is like a magnet. It has a strong magnetic pull. So bentonite clay, essentially it's lava. So when a volcano erupts into lava, the lava breaks down into volcanic ash. Over time it becomes bentonite clay. And because it was lava, it's so charged. So the bentonite clay has strong magnetic properties, so when we drink it, it goes in and it attracts impurities like a magnet. It locks heavy metals, parasites, worms, toxins into its antibodies and then removes it when the clay leaves the body. So it cleans up the body, purifies the body. It's awesome for cleansing the gut, the blood, the liver. At home, if you do it yourself, you just get the tub of clay, mix it into water, and always you want to make sure you don't use metal because that will weaken the magnetic properties of the clay. So you want to use bamboo or wood or plastic to stir the clay in with the water. And I just love how clay is so cheap. It's so affordable. And that's the thing, all of these natural remedies, these natural things are so affordable to people. They don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars.
Algae is a gift to us from Mother Nature, trying to help us be nourished, remove toxins. 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits or vegetables. The United Nations has endorsed spirulina algae for 50 years. And the best part is they come in little tiny tablets. 1 tablet has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables, about 1 pound of vegetables. And you can swallow these tablets, you can chew them, you can add them to smoothies. In seconds you get the protein, the phytonutrients, 40 vitamins and minerals, the chlorophyll that you need to nourish your body. That's mostly spirulina, nourishment in. And chlorella pulls toxins out, pulls all the heavy metals, all the glyphosate, the pesticides, the molds, the alcohol, the lactic acid, all the things that your body doesn't want.
My number 1 favorite thing to talk about is liquid chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a compound found in dark leafy greens, so we consume chlorophyll when we eat things like kale and spirulina, chlorella, spinach, but when it's liquid, it's more bioavailable, so it penetrates into our cells and our digestive system doesn't have to work to digest the chlorophyll, it just absorbs. And if you put chlorophyll under a microscope, it looks like perfect human blood, but it's made of magnesium, whereas blood is made of iron. And our blood is an imprint of what we drink. So when we drink liquid chlorophyll, our blood mimics that. It's amazing for transforming the blood very quickly. Our cells are regenerating all the time. Our blood, every 120 days, we have new blood, which is really good news for anyone who's suffering, who's sick. So in 3 months, you can have new cellular memory. So the fastest way to regenerate the cells is through liquid chlorophyll. I've been doing this for 16 years now, and I've seen thousands of people heal from cancer effectively, completely naturally.
People like quick fixes today, but when you think about it, we've had decades of accumulating toxins in our body. You've been absorbing this stuff for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. It's not going to turn around in 30 days. And the bottleneck is really the body. You're only able to release and process so many toxins per day. Some people that get a little too excited and a little too motivated, they may hit a wall where they have fatigue and brain fog and other, fairly unpleasant symptoms.
Here's the reality. Our detox system was not set up for the situation that we're in. So there's a couple different things we need to do here. First of all, we want to minimize anything incoming as much as we possibly can. drinking out of plastic, so any of these types of things that we can minimize or avoid, and sometimes you can't avoid them. If I'm on the road and the only thing I can do to get any water is going to drink something out of plastic and I'm dehydrated, then guess what? I'm drinking out of plastic. So we want to do the best, but I also don't want you to be so precious that you can't go out and have a meal at a regular restaurant that might have seed oils now and then. We need to also create resilience. Then the next thing is, how do we start to help our body get rid of these as much as possible? One of the things I worry about is just, let's say that you just decided to do a juice cleanse. Well, you need amino acids to help escort the toxins out of the body. We detoxify in multiple phases, and the first thing we're going to do is start to free things up. This is why a fat loss diet actually can be very problematic if your detox pathways aren't working well, because as you start to lose fat, your body stores toxins in the fat. In fact, it can be an area of weight loss resistance, because when your body sequesters the toxins in the fat, if you are not good at detoxifying, it's going to cool you down and hold these in so that you don't make yourself more toxic. But the other things that can start to happen is you've got leaky gut, you've got leaky brain, you start to do things that help to pull things out of the tissue, chelate things out, and you don't have good ways to get it out. We could have a problem too.
Slow and steady wins the race. I think it's much more preferable to facilitate the body's natural ability to detox, so the body can just naturally and slowly push out metals a little bit every single day. And I think that's, in my opinion, a much more sensible approach. You want to think about detox as a lifestyle. Even if you do a really intense detox for, say, 6 months, every day you're still exposed to new toxins. You really want to think about daily detoxification, like what you can be doing today to facilitate your body's ability to detox.
After you have opened the drainage pathways, built up mitochondria energy production, started clearing out infections, and now restoring the integrity of the gut, now is the time you can detox. With patients, I want to find out, what are your big pain points? What are the big symptoms that plague you every day? And oftentimes it's, my energy is low, my brain function is bad, I feel like I'm rapidly aging, I've got digestive issues, I can't sleep. So say, okay, let's pick the top few things that you want to work on here, and then I want to rapidly get them a win. I want them to start feeling better, because as soon as somebody can actually start feeling better, now they see, hey, this stuff works. And before we know it, they're doing deep body detox work. They're doing deep cellular detoxification. They're restoring their body at such a level that they've never done before. And the thing that happens is, after they actually get their health back, everything else gets better in their life. And miraculous things happen. They start to sleep better, their energy starts to go up, their brain starts to function better, they're more creative, they're more likely to earn more money because they can excel faster at work because they feel so much better.
So for the average healthy person, it probably takes a couple of years to get rid of toxins. So I slowly but surely started getting rid of all these metabolic hindrances to my health. Over the next few years, I started seeing more releases of alumina, mercury, arsenic, uranium come out of my body and increase to really high levels on the heavy metals tests that I was doing. And slowly but surely over time, I started feeling better and better and better, lighter and lighter and lighter. And I saw my body just working better. I was feeling better. I've had people that were bedridden and just had chronic fatigue syndrome, able to get their life back, able to start working again, able to start engaging in life again. Those took a while. Those took, a few years to get to that point. Even my own daughter, she had an autism diagnosis at one point, and she had the highest aluminum levels of anyone I've ever tested. And I've tested thousands of people over the last 15 years. So I gave her lots of zeolite, and her aluminum levels came down to normal levels. And fortunately, because of the very swift, very acute intervention that I was able to give her, she's fully recovered now. So it's really a joy to see people recovering their energy levels, which is going to raise the functioning of all the other body systems. So that you need energy to power your digestion, your immunity, your brain function. So by restoring mitochondrial functioning through detoxification, you see a lot of the other systems come on board, and people's life improve in general.
We're still living in a very outdated model that we're mostly concerned with viruses and genes that we inherited from distant ancestors that supposedly are like ticking time bombs and that we're going to ultimately end up with a chronic disease, versus understanding that we have incredible resilience, integrity in our cells. It's a miracle. We have this perfect template of health within every cell of our body. We just don't know that because we've been socially engineered to think that we have to go to a priest of the body, when we have some kind of physical ailment. Many of the doctors today are performing an ancient role, and we're reliving it within the clinical setting. So that's what we've been up against. However, thanks in part to the Trump and Kennedy coming together, the MAHA movement, we are seeing a sea change. Democratic processes need to be engaged if someone's going to make global decisions for health. I really want this to be the primary thing that we, the people internationally, take on and reclaim our power and get full transparency through governments that are using this in a way that is nefarious.
I think that one of the most exciting things about the MAHA movement is that many suppressed natural technologies and modalities that are beneficial to people are going to be revealed. I think that we're on the precipice of a wild revolution, and we need it desperately because our children are at risk, our family members are dying, real information has been suppressed. These are crimes against humanity.
The Make America Healthy Again movement is the most exciting thing that I've seen in my entire 25-year health medicine career. We actually have a chance as a culture, as a society, as a country to actually change this around and have transparency. I mean, I'm all about choice. I don't want the government telling me what I can and can't buy, but I want to know what the heck is in the food. And transparency is the biggest gift, I think, that we can give people so that they can make their own choice for health. But right now, we don't have a choice.
The MAHA movement is supporting practitioners, communities, companies that have been spending years quietly researching, finding ways to help us, the world, get back our health using natural means. There's so many more things that the MAHA movement is doing, and we're here to support them because they're here to support you, to protect our future, to help you regain what you've lost. They're going to help us get back our lives. I know there's a future ahead for us that looks positive, and I want everyone to feel that way too.
My dad was a board-certified psychiatrist, and what a lot of people don't realize is megavitamin therapy came out of the psychiatric world. And once my dad discovered that his patients were malnourished, that was it. He could not practice medicine as he was taught. And I witnessed this because my dad had a home office. I witnessed schizophrenics transform. I mean, to the point where they're now running million-dollar companies today. And I would see patients that had been hospitalized who were wiped out on Thorazine and Haldols, and they would come and see my dad, and within months they're walking out of Napa State Hospital. And that was a very powerful effect. I was shocked. I was thinking, wow, the whole world will embrace this. Well, in 1972, my dad was on the cover story of Prevention magazine. And he was talking about things like whole food is good. How powerful B vitamins can be. Within 5 days of that article, my dad was attacked by the San Francisco Medical Society, the medical board, his hospital that he had privileges at, and I realized right then and there, this is a very serious fight. Oftentimes I'll speak to conventional doctors and they'll tell me, oh, you don't need vitamins. And of course I'll always say to them, well, why do you eat? What people have to understand, dietary supplements are really nothing more than foods. They're identifiable. You know, the idea that you could get everything out of the food that you eat, that's the nutritional death sentence. If you believe that you can get all the nutrients you need out of the average American diet. The biggest problem with foods is that nutritional value is just not what it used to be. We're putting incredible demands on Mother Nature, especially when it comes to big ag. We've been doing blood analysis on patients for 60 years. I have never seen a patient who is able to reach adequate nutrient levels just by eating. There are a host of issues and encumbrances the fact that the food is low in nutritional value, you can't eat enough food. And that's where dietary supplements can come in. They fill in the gaps.
We live in an era where we've got this blessing of a lot of information, and you see a lot of ads served up for certain supplements, and you have a friend who took a certain compound and benefited from it, and you got a doctor who's recommended something else, and a podcast you listen to where you heard about something else. And before you know it, you got 40 different bottles in your pantry. And this happens to me a lot. Someone will come to me for some kind of nutrition coaching or an analysis of their supplements, and there's an enormous amount of redundancy. Let's take vitamin D, for example. Great supplement, good for bone density and for hormones. It seems to have some anti-cancer properties. But if you were to test your blood vitamin D levels, once you get above about 100, you'll tend to see risk for calcium getting pulled into the arteries, what's called hypercalcemia. It could increase your risk of plaque, for example, or arterial calcification. You can mitigate that to a certain extent by taking vitamin D with the things that assist with its absorption, namely vitamin K2 and magnesium. But at the same time, if you're taking 40 supplements and 6 of them have 1,000 and 2,000 IU of vitamin D in them, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. You're not just going to pee it out, you're going to store it. And so you can wind up getting levels of vitamin intake or the intake of something else that might be far above what you should actually be taking in. You could risk toxicity, you could risk elevated liver enzymes, you could risk just constipation, diarrhea, all sorts of issues that can come when you're getting way too much of something because it's in half a dozen different supplements that you're taking, and you've just kind of picked stuff up along the way. So I think the main thing to understand is looking into the supplement to see what's actually in it, and if what they say it has in it actually it correlates to what has been found to be helpful in research. Looking at everything that you're actually taking and seeing if there's any redundancy, and if you can, doing blood testing, like a quarterly blood panel, for example, to actually see if there are things building up in your body, either excesses or deficiencies that might be harming you.
Nitric oxide kind of has come on the scene in the last 25 years. It was awarded the Nobel Prize. It was later determined by Case Western University that nitric oxide was the third essential gas in the body. Oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is produced by the lining of the artery as the body's great regulator, anti-inflammatory, and actually now tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of articles showing it as the regulator of virtually all of the body's systems in so many ways, and so valuable. But for many years, people didn't have any idea what it was, but it's been the last 15 years particularly that its role in the body has become essential, even to the point that they call it the spark of life in the cell, and Science magazine referred to it as the miracle molecule. 17 years ago, it literally reversed my need to have a quadruple bypass, gave me my life back at 57. The cardiovascular implications were, it was maybe minimizing the impact of people having to have a stent or having to have bypass surgery, or they were seeing their blood pressure diminish with increase of nitric oxide. The results are just so exciting that even medicine in many ways, and particularly the integrative doctors, the family health care doctors, they're embracing it. Cardiologists aren't too crazy about it because if it eliminates stents and bypasses, that's a big part of their revenue. Our research is showing significant benefits to all chronic illness because virtually all illness is based upon inflammation in the cell. And nitric oxide, properly distributed and sustained in the body, is the body's greatest natural anti-inflammatory. There was a concerted effort in pharmaceutical companies to try to create nitric oxide through some sort of a gas, almost like a CPAP, because they knew that it would help. But the treatments were $3,000, $4,000. Ironically, the Nobel Prize was in medicine that basically said, take some amino acids, arginine, citrulline, eat some beef, eat some beets, and you'll create some nitric oxide. Now that isn't enough to reverse a chronic situation. And that's why when I got involved, I said, There's got to be something that can make the nitric oxide last for more than 3 or 4 hours. And you don't have to eat, a bushel of beets every day in order to have the same nitric oxide benefit. I set out to design the finest nitric oxide vitamin D3 supplement of the world, and that's where Cardio Miracle became the formulation that we devised that had multiple aspects of nitric oxide, vitamin D delivery, antioxidants, etc. Tadeusz Smolinski won the Madame Curie Award. He was considered the premier biochemist in Europe. He taught at the University of Ohio, was the chairman of the department there, and he had determined the connection between vitamin D3 and cardiovascular disease, which was huge. It was one of the biggest papers ever. I contacted him, cold turkey, and said, I believe I've created the finest nitric oxide vitamin D supplement in the world. I'd like to come talk to you. And lo and behold, even after thousands of emails, his staff PhD assistant said he wanted to talk to me. So I went back to Ohio and sat down with this genius. He says, I'll test it in my lab at the highest levels. And I said, great, that's why I'm here. He goes, but what if it doesn't work? And I said, that's why I'm here. I want to know if it works. And 30 days later, he called me up and he said, in the lab, in a Petri dish, a single endothelial cell, bathed in your Cardio Miracle compound, as he called it, he said extended nitric oxide for 24 to 36 hours. He said he'd never seen that before. He said he'd never seen past 4 to 5 hours. And so he said, how did you do that? I said, must have been a download from God. I don't know. I said, I'm just a guy trying to do my part. So he published a paper on that. People are taking charge of their own health. They're doing their own research. The internet, the availability of information is getting that out there a little bit, and if we now go forward into a place where we're not going to have censored internet or media or social media going forward, then even more of the truth can get out. But I highly recommend people do your own research and just follow the science, because in many ways I believe the medicine has been flawed and has lost its way.
Looking for treatments for kidney disease has been a passion of mine for several decades, and we see many hundreds of thousands of people die every year from sudden kidney failure or acute kidney injury. I believe Klotho is probably the most promising potential treatment for addressing kidney disease. Klotho is a protein or a hormone that's primarily produced by the kidneys. It's a circulating hormone, so it interacts with all cells and organs in the body. Klotho was originally discovered in Japan over 20 years ago as part of a mouse study looking at hypertension. And in the study, the scientists disabled the gene that produces Klotho, and he noticed that the mice rapidly age. They only live about 20% of a normal lifespan. And then he created mice that overexpress Klotho. They create much higher levels of Klotho, and those mice would live 30, 40% longer than normal. So since then, there have been over 6,000 academic publications looking at Klotho in animals that are deficient or have higher levels of Klotho in almost every disease of aging, whether it's kidney disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, diabetes, human frailty, muscle strength. And we see that in mammals, in animals and humans, when Klotho levels are low, there's an accelerated rate of aging. And when Klotho levels are higher, the rate of aging decreases. I founded Klotho Therapeutics 10 years ago with the purpose of developing Klotho protein for treating diseases of aging, starting with kidney disease and then cognition, dementia, Alzheimer's, and human frailty in old age. We've developed the manufacturing process. That was actually the biggest challenge for a molecule like this, which is very complex. It's about 20 times the size of an insulin molecule, so it is very difficult to manufacture. And so most of our investment and effort has been focused on creating the ability to even manufacture Klotho at the required scale. Now we're moving forward to prepare a new drug application to submit to the FDA for treatment of kidney disease.
Never in my life did I ever think I would be involved with algae nutrition or nutrition at all. And what I love about it is that algae is Mother Nature at her best, trying to help us be nourished, remove toxins, live our best life. It's been endorsed by NASA for over 50 years, who feed it to the astronauts. We have a quote from NASA that says 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits or vegetables, 1 to 1,000. The United Nations has endorsed spirulina algae for 50 years. They declared spirulina algae the answer to world hunger 50 years ago. Why? A, because algae has the most protein in the world. It has 3 times the amount of protein as steak, chicken, or fish, and it's a sustainable, eco-friendly crop. One of the reasons why people out in North America don't know about algae is it's not grown anywhere except Asia. It's grown in Japan, China, Taiwan, Korea. It's as big as the beef industry is here. It is a massive agricultural crop. Yes, there is algae in the ocean, in the lakes, in the streams, in your swimming pool probably, but algae, spirulina and chlorella are grown as agricultural crops in fresh water, not grown in the ocean. And the reason for that is you cannot keep mycotoxins out of wild bodies of water, like lakes and oceans. Growing algae isn't like growing broccoli or tomatoes. It's more like making wine. And just like wine, it's affected by the angle of the sun and then the production processes. You know, when you get a Sauvignon Blanc from Australia, it's going to taste a lot different from a Sauvignon Blanc from California. Part of that is the sun. In wine, it's also the soil, and then the production processes, the barrels and the kind of wood and the length and time in the barrels. Most of these companies that are growing it in India or Taiwan are contract manufacturers. They don't pay much attention. They want to get to market quickly, so they cut corners. And one of the corners they cut is they use high heat to dry the algae because it allows them to get it to market quickly. This is a pivotal piece of information because when you use high heat on anything, including algae, you deactivate certain nutrients, including enzymes. And there are some really important enzymes I want to talk about in algae, particularly spirulina. One's called superoxide dismutase, which is proven to protect the mitochondria from free radical damage, proven to stop inflammation, proven to prevent Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease. 25,000 studies prove that superoxide dismutase does all these things. The trouble is, it's also an enzyme. And all these other companies that are using high heat to dry their algae deactivate that particular enzyme. So we have never used high heat. So all of our algae has all of these nutrients preserved so they can go to work and do all these important things for your health. There are 100,000 scientific papers about spirulina and chlorella, which are the 2 algae we sell. 1 tablet has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables, about 1 pound of vegetables. In seconds, you are nourished. In seconds, you get the protein, the phytonutrients, the 40 vitamins and minerals, the chlorophyll that you need to nourish your body. That's mostly spirulina, nourishment in, and chlorella pulls toxins out, pulls all the heavy metals, all the glyphosate, the pesticides, the molds, the alcohol, the lactic acid, all the things that your body doesn't want. They will save our health, they will save our environment, they're great for your pets, for your children, and they're effortless to take. This is the future of fast food.
I was somebody who always thought I was healthy, always thought I was doing the right things, but in 2017, I was introduced to my now business partner, Ken Swartz, through a mutual friend, and at that particular time, I was going through what I would describe as kind of lifestyle and career-induced burnout from a long history of kind of work hard, play hard, and I was experiencing adrenal fatigue. Around the same time, my father had passed, and that was really kind of a transformational time in my life. But Ken and I's worlds collided, and he introduced me to Carbon-60. I was really skeptical at first about it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even understand the language that he was using with me. It took many months of kind of follow-up, and I would say almost kind of pestering me to try it. And once I did, some things started to shift for me. Initially, I noticed kind of what I would describe as expanded bandwidth. It was just a greater ability to process information, to deal with stress, and to have a lot of things coming at me one time, and I was just able to operate at a higher level. It took about 6 to 9 months of multiple things kind of coming together where the light bulb went off, and I was like, okay, there's something really going on here. But the thing that really solidified that something was going on for me with C60 was that I had been living in Colorado. I was somebody who loved the lifestyle that a lot of people move to Colorado for, and that's part of the reason why I was there, because I love to bike, hike, ski, all the things outdoors. But I am wildly allergic to the grasses and the trees in Colorado, and I would run around, like most of my conversations with my nose just running doing this. And it was about somewhere between 6 and 7 months that I noticed I just wasn't buying boxes and boxes of Kleenex anymore. It was really kind of like, it didn't happen fast, but over this period of 6 to 9 months, I had these primary issues that were affecting me due to how inflammation was uniquely showing up in my own body essentially go away. The cool thing about C60 is that it is a very powerful antioxidant to help combat some of this overwhelm of the detox that is just put upon us. And it's very supportive to, energy and mental clarity and the ability to focus. Inside our cells, we have the mitochondria, and it basically sweeps out the crud that gets in there, which is the oxidative stress and the free radicals, and that's what contributes to aging and inflammation. And C60 neutralizes it and turns it back into water and can reset itself again and again. So it's not a drug. What you do get from it is this extracellular energy. And once you've got a little bit more energy, then the good habits can follow. And if you stack that with these healthy lifestyle choices, the focus on prioritizing, sleep, water, proper nutrition, moving your body every day, that creates more energy.
It was discovered in 1985, and it actually solved a long-standing mystery in astronomy. There's things called DIBS, diffuse interstellar bands, and there was something between the stars absorbing in the infrared. And the band was so big it had to be a molecule. But there was like a mystery of what type of molecule it was. And there's 5 researchers, but Harry Kroto, Robert Curl, and Richard Smalley, those 3 received the Nobel Prize in 1996 for the discovery of C60. And they basically proved that carbon-60 was this molecule. It had been theorized by Buckminster Fuller. The science name is Buckminster fullerene, and it was named in his honor because he had actually theorized that this molecule would exist and be found in nature, and that it would have amazing health benefits. And that was decades before it was discovered. Basically, there's a famous study, I think started in the early 2000s, the Bhatri study, people call it. And basically it was a test for toxicity. They didn't know, could this thing be toxic? And they used Wistar rats. Wistar rats are kind of a wimpy rat, and instead of actually decreasing the lifespan of the Wistar rats, it actually increased the lifespan of the Wistar rats that received 60 by 90%. And that was really surprising to the scientists. They found that it was acting as an antioxidant and completely prevented cognitive decline during aging of those mice. C60, what it does, you take it, it'll pass the gut barrier, passes the brain barrier, goes into the cells by endocytosis, and then into the mitochondria by endocytosis, where it works as a superoxide dismutase catalase mimic in taking care of superoxide, the most damaging oxidative radical in the body, which is produced in large quantities in the mitochondria. The mitochondria are little furnaces in your cells, and they basically burn oxygen and ketones or glucose to produce ATP, which is the energy molecule for 95% of all the energy in your cells. So your mitochondria are critical to health. And we work with a lot of doctors, and they find that there's a lot of problems, especially, in today's, as a lot of people are aging, there's a lot of mitochondria malfunction that you would say that's a degenerative disease. And there's basically 4 endogenous antioxidants that are really critical to mitochondria function. Of course, one of them is CoQ10. Then there's glutathione, but there's the 2 others that are really key are superoxide dismutase and catalase. And they work together in tandem to take care of superoxide, the most damaging oxidative radical in the body. And there was really no way to supplement for them because they're produced within the cell and there's not really a mechanism to get those into the cell, even if you've got them into your bloodstream. But C60 is a mimic and it does the job of both in one shot. And so that kind of fills that slot in your antioxidant profile. You're looking for a long health span, because what good is it, a long lifespan if you're just drooling in a wheelchair? But here's a process, at least in animal studies, that completely prevented cognitive decline during aging, and primarily to keeping the mitochondria functioning so that cells can be healthy.
I think it's being revealed right now because we need it. And it's beneficial not only to humans, but to our animals as well. And I really sincerely hope that over the course of the next few years, the truth around some of the harm that's been done to us is continued to be disclosed and exposed. It's wildly critical for us to leverage as many tools as we can that are supportive to us individually. And so that's why I think that C60, the potential of it is massive. The potential for, healing, supporting the healing process naturally, and also working synergistically with other medications, vitamins. It's a harmonizing molecule. It doesn't negatively interact with any of those other modalities or mechanisms that you're using. And so for the people that are on this path that are very serious about recovering their health, reclaiming their well-being, and they want to be in alignment, on path, on time, I think that C60, it's a very powerful molecule and antioxidant to help support, promote, kind of elevate, and drive forward, that energy. I think that we're on the precipice of a wild revolution, and we need it desperately because our children are at risk, our family members are dying because of the propaganda that have been fed and the fact that real information has been suppressed. These are crimes against humanity, but I am very optimistic, I'm very hopeful, and I'm very grateful for the position that we're in today. I think we were built for these times, and C60 has the ability to support people with cellular resilience, and that's what we need, in our hearts and in our spirits to bring positive change and kind of turn the ship around.
The perception of supplements by those who are entrenched in an already pharmacological system, of course they're going to be skeptical, because when you can pay $30 or you can pay $1.50 a serving for a vitamin drink that has 58 vitamins and minerals and nitric oxide and everything in it, as opposed to paying $10,000 a month for a prescription or paying Medicare and Medicaid and health insurance premiums. I mean, it's totally out of whack. And all you have to do is say, if you think those supplements are bad for you, tell me the last time you heard of somebody dying of an overdose of vitamin D. Or tell me when somebody last died from a toxic vitamin C capsule. I mean, but the 4th leading cause of death is properly prescribed prescription drugs and medical error. It's the 4th leading cause of death.
I believe that the Food and Drug Administration has overstepped the bounds, and they have gone beyond safety and into efficacy, which is problematic. We have the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, which was passed in 1994, the DSHEA as it's commonly referred to. And it's a very strange tightrope you have to navigate. It's very clear. The drug companies want to own disease, and they can make disease claims. But in reality, there is more scientific information related to vitamins, minerals, the aminos, the essentials of life than there is in all the drugs combined.
I'm hoping that the good work that's been laid by many of the pioneers of the alternative or the wellness side of the business, that people will take it seriously and do their homework and be able to find that there are answers to helping to live a healthier and happier life, and that it's not just take a pill that then leads to multiple pills and then leads ultimately to an untimely and an uncomfortable demise. I'm very optimistic that making America healthy again is something that we are right on the verge of after having a traumatic and horrific past 5 years. There's a new day, and there's a new dawn, and there's new hope. Now let's make us Americans healthy again.
Hi, it's Jeff again. I hope you learned a ton just now. Remember, the viewer's guide is available to you as well as the full transcripts of each chapter. So if you miss the name of a supplement or you miss the toxin drainage protocol, it's all in there. These transcripts are fully searchable. Just type in a term or speaker and you'll find what you need. Take it to your doctor. Show it to a family member. It's a great resource. That's available to you when you buy the full film MAHA Uncensored today. And I do think this is a great time to do so. Tomorrow's chapter is called the MAHA Toolkit. You're going to hear from leading experts on biohacking, longevity, and healing at the atomic and molecular level. For example, one of the treatments we'll discuss is a brain booster so powerful, neurosurgeons have been known to keep an IV of it on hand during brain surgery. You're also going to learn about infrared frequencies, resetting your metabolism, and much more. Earlier in this film, my friend Ben Azadi made a comment that we're designed to live to be at least 120. In tomorrow's chapter, we lay out the best tools we have right now to actually make that possible. If you haven't become a supporter yet, please scroll down. We have a limited offer and I don't want you to miss out. Until then, I'm Jeff Hayes and thank you for watching.